Okay. Hi, Dave. Really appreciate the knowledge and the work you are doing. Love to Ask the Doc series. See, they love you, man. My question is that I am a 26-year-old male, and last time I ran an Anavar plus Clen plus HGH cycle last year and had great results, but did not do correct PCT and hence felt a little low for the past 2 months. I believe it's due to low T, but I believe Anavar is a mild androgenic, which is a DHT derivative. So did it affect my HPTA axis, and am I not producing enough testosterone now? I'm planning to start my TRT cycle with 500 milligrams of test enantate and 10 to 20 milligrams of Anavar every week with 1 milligram of anastrozole every second day so that I keep my estrogen in check. I guess he's been listening to the show. Just wanted to know, since my LDL is 177 milligram per deciliter and HDL is 37 milligram per deciliter, or DL, that's right? And my LH count is 0.645 ml U per milliliter, which is slightly below the normal range. Free test is 9.02 pg per milliliter, and total test is 187 ng per dl. Well, he's pretty thorough, this one. Can you please advise me on how to proceed and take the necessary precaution to protect my cholesterol, and also how I can get my LH back to normal when I am done with my 8 to 10 weeks cycle. Also, please advise, should I lower the test around 250 to 325 milligram per week? Will that range be safer? I really appreciate your help. Thanks, from India.
Okay, first of all, the fact that this is a 26-year-old male is not the best sign, because without any more information, again, I don't know if the use of Anavar and GH, I mean, more than likely this was not necessary. This was a choice it's always a choice, but this was not a medically necessary cycle. Right?
It wasn't needed.
This was some sort of bodybuilding attempt and whatnot, and that's fine. But just to be clear, one of the issues when you use any sort of replacement before the HPA axis has been fully developed is you run the risk of it not being fully developed, and then you have a lifetime of issues. It doesn't happen that often in practice as I see it, but it does happen the earlier you start to interrupt that development. So for example, if someone starts to do cycles when they're 16 or something like that, or 18 or 20, as opposed to after the age of 26, which, depending on what book you read, the growth plates, the epiphyseal disc, stop growing at 26, and so presumably all these things, the HPA axis specifically, has already formed, and you're not going to disrupt that formation. So, okay, you can temporarily upset it, but in the long term, it'll bounce back to its baseline, which is what a lot of people count on when they do cycles of things. Mm-hmm. But the fact that let's see, this person.
He says he's 26, so I remember you saying that before, the 26 mark.
Well, and again, it depends on the person, it depends on the study you read, etc. But here he is, 2 months, and he still has a fairly low total testosterone. So again, was it low from the beginning? You have a pituitary microadenoma and you needed to be on this to begin with, or something, even though I doubt. But again, pituitary microadenoma, that would justify oftentimes the use of growth hormone too, because the pituitary is responsible for all these hormones, right? So in that case, though, I don't know why you'd want to come off. Anyway, enough speculation. But let's see. You definitely have low testosterone a couple months afterwards, especially for someone 26. And whether or not it's Anavar or any other testosterone-like molecule, it will act as replacement for what your body would normally produce endogenously, so you're going to have the effect of suppression. So I hope that answers that part of it. Whether it's a DHT derivative or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, if I may comment on this one too, I'm going to go a little off track here, but this has been sort of a pet peeve of mine recently, because I hear guys that are saying, well, I'm going to go on a cycle and I'm going to, therefore triple the testosterone base, right? I've never understood this. If you were using a replacement dose, typically 200 milligrams of testosterone cypionate, and then you say needed to, for whatever anabolic purpose, add some Anavar or any other nandrolone, to legal anabolic steroids, at least in this country. Why would you then also increase the testosterone? I've never understood that. In a general sense. There's some other really specific reasons why it might become an issue, but I'll leave those alone for now. If you're putting 97 octane into the gas tank, why would you increase the amount of 87 octane commensurately? To dilute it even more? It's never made sense to me, although I suspect that the people that are coming up with these, I think we touched on this before, are the same people that are providing these drugs. So there's a conflict of interest to say, well, you need to take this, but you better take more of this too. I have had people tell me that, oh no, I took Anavar on top of my replacement dose of testosterone of 200 milligrams per week of cypionate, but then I also increased that to 300 or 400 milligrams a week, and I felt even better than when I did it alone. Well, without getting into too many specifics of when he took it and whatnot. And by the way, when you take an anabolic steroid with your testosterone, you're reducing your SHBG, so you're going to get more juice to squeeze. So even that free testosterone increase might be enough where you feel a difference. But at some point, at the tipping point, like they say all the time, there's only so many receptors. And you got your, let's say, Anavar versus your testosterone racing for those receptors, and let's say they both wearing the same tennis shoes. If you give more of these guys, the regular, the testosterone guys, the numbers, well, they're going to hit it there more times than what you really want to hit the receptor, which is the Anavar. So I don't understand that increase. So going back to the question here, I'm not sure why you would want to increase your testosterone to 500 milligrams, which would be above a base level. And by the way, back in the days when my generation and those before me, when they were using anabolics, they weren't using a base of testosterone that I'm aware of. It was just, I'm going to add my anabolic, and they were either on something or they were off something completely. And it was back in the, this is experiences with bodybuilders, guys like this age who, cycled because you were trying to preserve your endogenous production. Guys my age, 55, what's the point of cycling? You're not trying to preserve testicular function. There isn't any.
That's right.
So you're on replacement therapy. So I understand that from that standpoint, adding to a base. But anyway, the LDL is definitely high per the standards. I don't know why. It could be genetics. How you chose your parents plays at least 50% of the role here. But probably, eating a lot of saturated fats. It definitely can contribute to it, obviously. So the paleo diet and the ketogenic diet is a big one these days in terms of the fads of diets, and that can elevate your LDL. Whenever you do anabolic steroids, every single one of them will tend to raise your LDL and lower your HDL cholesterol. I think we've mentioned this before.
Yeah.
Winstrol will cut your HDL in half within 3 days. It's really hard on your HDL. But it works both ways, and of course it depends on your diet. But that said, I have seen, not many, but enough where I'm convinced it definitely works, cases where, what do they say? You have something you need to get done. What do? You give it to somebody who's busy. You ever heard that expression? There's no time to goof off. When people know that this is happening and they get on a cycle for whatever the reason is, and they know that it's going to affect their lipids, they eat better. There's tricks you can use, like with the growth hormone too, with the spike in sugars. You can take metformin, you can take red yeast rice, or a frank statin, a drug, frank drug for it, to compensate for it. And that's what doctors are supposed to do. If someone is on anabolics for whatever reason, yes, why the lipid profile is out of whack, but doesn't mean you just leave it there. You can make adjustments for it, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen people who are on anabolics who actually have better lipid profiles than when they're off, because they focus in on, hey, this is what I do right now because I've done this, and they do it more. They eat better. They take their supplements when they're supposed to regularly. Yeah. But this gentleman's testosterone is definitely, free T of 9 is low. Total test, serum T 187 nanograms per deciliter. That's below normal by just about any reference range that I'm aware of by a good amount. So it sounds like there hasn't been enough time for the testosterone to bounce back, or there is a problem that is it was probably extant before that it hasn't fixed itself and won't probably fix itself. But again, the symptoms, I assume, and he mentions he hasn't felt well, right? So he's got the symptoms of low T also. To get back to normal, I certainly wouldn't get back on another cycle of anabolics or add testosterone to it. At 26, I mean, there's so many factors. Do you want to have kids one day? Don't you want to keep your endogenous production for as long as possible? I don't know. Maybe you don't, but I'm just saying those are things I would ask. And use some either Clomid or HCG was what most doctors would prescribe to get the normal production, the endogenous production back up, and to see, hey, maybe 26 you do have low T for whatever the reasons might be, or maybe no, it's just from suppression for however long it's been on a cycle that's kept your endogenous production down. But yeah, this is still pretty low. In terms of the precautions for cholesterol he mentions here, the red yeast rice, limiting your consumption of saturated fats and increasing your production or replacing those of saturated fat with things like omega-3 rich fats or monounsaturated fats, olive oil. I think that answers his questions.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Doc.